You are welcome. I am Michael Adelani, your facilitator on this course, Introduction to Cybersecurity and Oversight of Information Security. And our first lesson for this week is Introduction to Cybersecurity. I remain my humble self, Michael Adelani, a student of Lagos State University, Asitse. Thank you for joining in the class. Oh, stopped. No unauthorized access. Wow. Well, as a form of introduction in this course, cybersecurity has these critical things you are seeing right here. It has to do with unauthorized access. It has to do with unauthorized deletion. Then also, more importantly, it has to do with unauthorized modification of data in the internet. Now, we now begin to ask ourselves questions. What is cyber security? What is cyber security? As we could see, we say cyber security is the ability to protect data or defend the use of cyberspace. Mark my word, cyberspace from cyber attack. Now, before we go further, what is cyberspace? What do we understand by the word cyberspace? Cyberspace. Cyberspace is a global virtual environment, mostly on the internet. They are created by computer systems networked together. Now we've seen the definition of cyberspace. Now we're going to look at what is cyber attack. Cyber attack is an attempt to disrupt, to disable, to destroy, or maliciously control a computing system via the what? Via the cyberspace. Remember, we said cyberspace is a virtual environment, All your data, they are virtually somewhere. They are in the cyberspace. But malicious people, they want to gain access to them, and that method is what they are waging cyber attack. Cybersecurity is about protection of sensitive information, specifically those stored or that are accessed through the internet from the cyberspace. Now we've now seen the definition of the cyberspace, what we understand by the cyberspace, and also we've seen or we've known now the definition of cyber attack. Now, let's look at something more interesting. Let's look at the difference between cybersecurity and information security. They are distinct, they are not the same. They are not the same at all. When we talk about information security, we talk about, we talk about the protection of information and information system from unauthorized access, from unauthorized use, and from unauthorized disclosure. Also disruption, modification, or destruction in order to provide confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That is what we understand by the word information security. Now, If you have information secured on the LAN that is not connected in any way to the internet, only information security applies, not the cyber security, because it hasn't gone to the cloud, it hasn't gone to the internet, so it deals with something that is still within the environment. Now, let's look at what happens to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity comes into play when security measures are now implemented through the cyberspace. Cybersecurity is a subset of a larger field of information security. Let's look at something more. Let's go. Excuse me. Now we've seen the definition of cybersecurity. We've now seen the difference between cybersecurity and when cybersecurity actually got into play. Now let's quickly look at the different types of cyber attack. He said cyber attack can be implemented through different channels. There are more, there are a lot of them. But we are going to be looking at one of them, which is phishing. The phishing attack entails the use of email or website for tricking users into giving required information by masquerading as a genuine entity known to the user. Many of us are familiar to Facebook, and this particular site is actually cloned, and if it is not original, it can never be original. It is cloned to look as if it's the original, and the moment you begin to supply your information in here, your information is being taken by a malicious person. Let's look at another one. Another type of cyber attack is the malware. Malware is a computer program that performs malicious action on another computer. Unknowingly to you, you could download the malware. The malware will now begin to work, gather your password, gather everything that has to do with your credit cards, gather everything that has to do with several other credentials installed on your system. And once it gets access to your to the user's computer, it begins to perform malicious acts, retrieving information secretly. Let's look at another. Another type of cyber attack will also be likened to the man in the middle attack. As you can see from this picture, this is a man who is expected to transact straight like this to this application. But alas, there is a man here. There is a man here. But alas, there is a man here listening to the information of the sender and also listening to the information that is coming from the application. What this man does, what this man at the middle, is he begins to listen to information coming from here, this pretends now to be the web application, deceiving both the web application and the user. It gets all the information that is coming from them to the web application. This is a cyber attack where the data to be exchanged between communicating parties is compromised by an attacker, this individual person. This is what we call the man in the middle attack. Let's look at another one. Another one is brute force. This is a cyber attack where the attacker tries guessing system access credentials like password by trying different characters combinations until the correct combination is identified. As you can see, this is the attacker. He's trying to get an access into this computer system. He tries several passwords. There's something also we call the dictionary attack, where the attacker makes use of all the words in the dictionary. Some of us, we use password from the dictionary, thinking that nobody is aware of. Everything now is e-document, e-dictionary, where everything is in electronics. A malicious person can use all the words in the dictionary to want to predict or to say the password of access into a machine. You can see it has used several means, different types of password, different types of password combination. The best is just for you to use figure, words, number, and special characters. Let's move further. Now let's look at the principles of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is laid on these two principles. That is, the confidential information must be kept out of reach of potential cyber attacker and other unauthorized individuals. If you don't have any business to do with my account, you shouldn't have any business or any access to my account. That is what this is trying to say. Also, cybersecurity measures must not hinder unauthorized users. Authorized users access to the information. I must not be denied access to my Gmail account. Let me give you a little scenario. I once have a car. The key got missing. I went to go and do another key, and alas and behold, the key could not open the boot of my car, and the key could not even start the engine of my car. It's my car, but I don't have access into it. So something is what is hindering me as the authorized users of that car to have access to driving the car. So that's just an example of what is happening here. You have a key to your house and you are denied to come into your house. Now, based on those two principles, we now have three main principles known as the CIA of information security. Now, what do we mean by that? When we talk about C, we talk about confidentiality. Cybersecurity should ensure that information to be stored or to be secured is only accessible to the authorized users and prevent the disclosure of information to unauthorized parties. That is what we mean by confidentiality. You see what? It is what to be secured, only accessible to authorized user and prevent the disclosure of that information to unauthorized users. Your hospital information is a vital information. It must not be disclosed. People have used it for electoral jargons to blackmail the person who is not capable because he's sick. It's because The confidentiality of his medical information has been exposed. Now, let's talk about the integrity. Cybersecurity efforts to ensure information remains accurate and consistent and not subject to unauthorized modification. If I withdraw 200,000 from my account and I logged out and I come in back, I should be able to see my balance of 20 billion naira. Amen. So my information should what? Should remain accurate. It must be consistent and not subject to any unauthorized modification. No one should go behind me and modify my information. And when we talk about the availability, it is an effort to ensure that information in cyberspace should not hinder its access by the authorized person. The authorized persons to have access to his bank account details online must not be hindered to those information. Now, we'll look into another slide. Now, what are the best practices? What are the best practices when we talk in terms of cybersecurity for securing confidential information? I've listed several of them here. You need to formulate a policy, a cybersecurity policy, which is measures taken to avoid information security breaches and to deal immediately with an identified breach that occurs. They are different from information security policies as they specifically address information safety in cyberspace. Why, when we talk about information security policies, we talk about those that are not applied to the cyberspace. But cyberspace security policy deals with information safety in the cyberspace. The second one is employee awareness training. The employee has to be trained. They need to have knowledge on how to have a very secure password. They need to have a knowledge that the official working system should not take in flash drive from somebody that is not authorized to use that system. So that has to do with the needs to train employee, the network users on information security to enable them to do their part in maintaining the security of that organization. Now, still on securing confidential information, we also implement software and system updates. Systems with known vulnerability are a cybersecurity risk, given the fact that an attacker can use them as launchpad for a cyber attack. If you have noticed that a particular system in the network has been misbehaving or is not up to date, you need not to allow that system to be among those systems that will be working for you in the cyberspace. Another one is the user access policy. The user access policy is defined who is able to access what information. Am I supposed to have access? I work in an organization. Am I supposed to have access to medical records? No. Then I must not have the access. Somebody who is working in the account department is not supposed to have access to somebody who is working in the medical department, and vice versa. And now, in summary of what we've done, we've defined what is cybersecurity is. And in defining what is cybersecurity, we talk about cyber attack, we talk about cyberspace. We've looked into the difference between cybersecurity and information security. There's a big, huge gap between them. As information security has to do with those securing information which had not been to the cyberspace. Why cybersecurity has to do with the one in the cyberspace. We've also talked about the different types of cyber attack, the brute force, the malware, the man in the middle, and so on that we've mentioned. We've also talked about the principle of cybersecurity, the CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and what? Availability. Then last, we wrap it up with best practices for securing confidential information. What are those things that we need to do to have a securing confidential information environment? I remain my humble self, Michael Adelani. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you. Bye for now. See you